Aloha and welcome to this special event called Two Caregivers Journey to Wellness. My name is Susan Alden and I'm honored to be sharing today along with two extraordinary women who have not only been caregivers to their loved ones, but they've helped others navigate this challenging journey. I want to start with some brief introductions so you have a little background on all of us. My own caregiver experience comes largely from being a mother of two boys. And when my boys were young, I was often a solo parent given my role as a military spouse to a career Army Special Forces officer. In addition, I'm also a veteran myself, and so the military community has been really near and dear to my heart. And for 2 decades, as we've navigated long and often tragic deployments, I've also used my knowledge and skills as a certified yoga therapist and functional medicine practitioner to support caregivers of wounded warriors. In 2019, I started to learn about caregiving from a new perspective, which I'll share more about later. But first, let me introduce my co-presenters. Alana Lynn is from North Carolina and currently living in San Diego. Her journey into caregiving began in 2007 when by accident they discovered her husband Charles had a brain tumor. After battling for almost 9 years, he passed away in April of 2016. In addition to being a full-time caregiver for Charles, she also has 2 sons who have struggled with addiction. Although she's never officially taken on the role of caregiver for either of her sons in adulthood, she spent years doing everything she could do to help them, which has often meant putting their health and well-being ahead of her own. She's learned a lot of hard lessons along the way, and she often jokes that she's the perfect example of all the things not to do. Alana is also a New York Times and USA Today best-selling author, a Jack Canfield certified trainer, and a health and wellness empowerment coach for women. Now, Lani Almanza, she was born in Hawaii and raised on the windward side of Oahu. Lani has employed a number of roles in her lifetime, including wife, mother of 4, and grandmother. She has been committed to helping create healthier lives and community through her various professional roles as educator, trainer, in retail management, and nonprofit organizations such as the American Cancer Society. Recently retired, she has embarked on a new journey as a wellness advocate through her own business, Alakai Associates. Lani received both her bachelor and master's degree in communication from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. So I am thrilled to now pass it on to Alana Lynn. Thank you, Alana.
Am I unmuted? All right. Thank you, and thank you everybody for being here today. Yeah, as Susan said, my caregiver journey, which was also the start of my journey into really poor health for a while, started in July 2007 when my husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor. He had surgery in August of 2007, but because of the type of tumor it was, they couldn't remove all of it. And so over the next 9 years, he had multiple rounds of chemo, 6.5 weeks of radiation, and received Avastin infusions every other week from July of 2011 until March of 2016, when he suffered a stroke. At that point, they stopped all treatments and he passed away in April 2016. In addition to caring for Charles, my oldest son also became ill in late 2006 with a mystery illness. The doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. They just knew he was suffering from chronic pain. So they started him on pain meds, which jump-started a serious opiate addiction for him. And also in May of 2013, my youngest son was involved in a tragic accident that resulted in a fatality. He was 17 at the time of the accident, and because of the intense emotional pain he was in, he spiraled out of control, and I almost lost him to a suicide and a drug addiction as well. I am happy to say that my youngest now has 20 months clean, and in April of last year, my oldest son was diagnosed with Lyme disease, which the doctor thinks he's had since 2006. So that's kind of a big picture overview of what's been going on in my life since 2007. And there was so much going on, and I was so busy focusing on my husband and my sons that I really neglected myself. In late 2015, I started becoming painfully aware of just how much I had neglected my health. I was overweight, was out of shape, and my fibromyalgia caused so much pain I could barely function. In January of 2016, I said to a friend, I have to do something about my health. But my concern wasn't for me. I realized that I was so out of shape and so weak that if Charles fell or if he really needed me to do something for him, there was no way I could lift him. I couldn't do what I needed. And that was my focus of why I needed to get healthy. But before I made those changes, Charles had a stroke, and he did lose the use of his right side. That was really difficult time for me because even though he spent the month between the stroke and his passing in a rehab unit, there were still a lot of times that I needed to move him from the bed to the chair or the chair to the shower and things like that. And because I'd let my health deteriorate, I couldn't take care of him the way I wanted to. 6 months after Charles passed, I still hadn't done anything about improving my health because my motivation for getting healthy which was taking care of him, was no longer there. Then in October of 2016, Eastern North Carolina, where I lived, got hit by a hurricane. And there was a news report of a nurse that had left her shift at the hospital at 7 o'clock in the evening, but she never made it home. And the next morning, they found her clinging to a tree. She was a little banged up, but she was okay. And I was so inspired by her because it was like this mental switch flipped. And I finally got that we have to take care of ourselves because it's important for our survival, not just so we can take care of someone else. So I decided it was time to get busy and serious about my health. I started going to the gym and working with a trainer. We started with basic weights that were equivalent to canned goods and gallon of milk. Over the next 6 months, I lost 45 pounds and 28 inches. But most importantly, I was able to lift the 5-gallon jug of water onto the water cooler by myself without calling my friend to come and help me. I was so proud of my progress, of having the strength and the ability to take care of myself. I felt better. I had more energy. I was happier. I was more positive and confident. And then I moved to California, where my sons lived. And at the time, they were both in active addiction. I fell right back into survival mode and forgot all the lessons I'd learned the year before. All of the progress I'd made unraveled. I spiraled into a really dark, depressed, and unhealthy state. I reverted to my unhealthy patterns. I quit taking my vitamins and supplements. I started eating out all the time. I stopped working out. I wasn't even walking. I gained all of my weight back and then some. I felt bad. I had no energy, and I basically stayed in the grips of a fibromyalgia flare. It was like I was back in 2015 and I had to start all over again. But this time I recognized that no matter what's going on with my family, I have to make my health a priority. Our health is everything. When we're healthy, or at least healthier, we're more physically capable of doing what needs done. We're more positive, which definitely impacts our loved ones. We are more productive, we're more pleasant to be around. And if there is an emergency, we're better equipped mentally, emotionally, and physically to handle it. I feel incredibly fortunate to be here today, rebuilding my health, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my journey with others so they can learn from my experience and hopefully bypass the mountains of mistakes that I've made along the way. I think one of the biggest mistakes that we as caregivers make is not allowing ourselves to release what we're feeling. We tend to bottle everything up because we don't want to burden anyone else with our stuff. We're the caregivers, and we don't accept help as easily or as often as we should. Stuffing those painful emotions and feelings and fears, it takes a toll on our mental and emotional and physical health. So my first tip is to let yourself feel the feelings and express them in healthy ways that allow you to get them out. Cry when you need to, beat pillows, whatever it takes to get it all out so you don't expend energy stuffing it all down. I also think movement is important. Walking or yoga or any kind of exercise is good. It helps us maintain our health, which is important. It gets endorphins going, which improves our mood, and most of us sleep better when we've been exercising. Another helpful mood enhancer for me is music. I have one playlist that helps me relax, one that makes me want to move or dance, and one that just plain makes me happy. So stick with songs that make you feel good. One thing I did do great, I guess, during my caregiving days was I got regular massages because it helped relieve my fibromyalgia pain. Treat yourself to massages, facials, manicures, pedicures. You're constantly giving away your love and energy. Allow someone else to touch you and to pour love and healing into you every once in a while. And lastly, I would recommend having a hobby or a craft or something that you really enjoy. Scrapbooking can be done as a family, and it's a great way to reminisce and laugh about happier times while also making plans to create more wonderful memories. It's important to stay positive and to have something to look forward to. You can also knit or crochet and do that while you're sitting with your loved one, or you can take up painting or gardening or another hobby that you do by yourself if you need time away. Do whatever works best for you and fulfills your need for self-care. And that's all I have now. I'll pass it over to Lonnie.
Thanks, Alana. That was awesome. So yeah, I think for everybody that's listening in on this call, you were invited probably because someone you know knows that you have experienced a caregiver role. Most of us have experienced some kind of caregiver role at some point in our lives. But have you ever been thrust into that role seemingly overnight? Have you experienced the stress that's often kept quietly behind the positive attitude? Or have you been so exhausted to the extent that your self-care was just getting out of bed, taking a shower, and getting dressed? I have shared that experience with you. In 2002, my youngest of 4 children had just returned from his first year at college, and during the summer months began to have some minor vision changes, but nothing out of the ordinary. We thought maybe he needed glasses. He was trying to take his driver's test and wasn't passing. But as the beginning of the fall semester came around, he started to have more headaches and then earaches. Doctors just couldn't determine what was going on with normal physical exams. By the end of October, we had progressed, the symptoms were progressing, and by Thanksgiving, he had lost his appetite and could hardly keep his balance, something that's not usual for a growing young man. So the doctors finally said that we needed to schedule an MRI to see what was going on. And so that first week of December in 2002, my caregiver journey began when he was diagnosed with a very fast-growing brain tumor. So for the next 6 months, we were thrust into that strange world of cancer and being caregivers. Between surgery and 7 weeks of radiation and multiple doctor visits, we had to navigate for support systems as caregivers, and sometimes those seemed very absent. Our cancer journey continued for another 3 years through a brief remission, and then a recurrence, more surgery, more chemotherapy, until he transitioned to spirit in December of 2005. Throughout that caregiver journey, I leaned on as many resources as I could to deal with the stress. In fact, before Jacob's diagnosis, I was finishing up my bachelor's degree and my master's degree, and I had presented a paper on ways to deal with stress, and it even became a workshop that I presented. So I still employ some of those tools today that I want to share with you. The first one is, people tell you to find time to relax. That's not going to happen. You have to create the time to rest and relax, whether it's just going out for a 5-minute walk, finding something positive or uplifting to read, meditation, and sometimes it's just a good nap. That's when our angels visit us. Number 2 is identify your lifesavers. I kind of refer to this as the lifeboat theory, that identify those people that you know are going to throw you the rescue ring, that you can call them at 2 in the morning and they'll be there to sit with you, whatever it takes. The third thing is find something that makes you smile. Humor and laughter are healing. They're medicine in and of themselves. And sometimes it's even a dumb dad joke that can uplift your spirits. Number 4 is share the load. Like Alana was saying, as caregivers, we often don't want to burden people and ask for help, but ask for help. And be specific in what you need. People will often say, how can I help? Be very specific in what you're looking for. I remember one of the things I wanted somebody to do was do the ironing. My husband wore cotton aloha shirts to work, and I just wanted somebody to do the ironing. I didn't want to have to worry about that one little chore. And somebody stepped up to do that. And then thank those people that are supporting you. And lastly, write things down. Keep a journal or a notebook with you, because oftentimes things that are being thrown at us or said at us as caregivers when we're sitting with our loved ones or at the doctors with them can often be misheard or misinterpreted. And so writing those things down can help to clarify, but also keep a journal for yourself and write down your personal feelings. Like Alana said, if you need to let those emotions out, you can write that out in a journal. Just scream and yell and swear and whatever you want. It's your personal journal to use to do that. But all of those tools alone weren't able to combat the tremendous stress that we as caregivers are confronted with. And what I didn't realize was that when I had the tools, my toolbox, my body was being rusted from the inside out by what's called oxidative stress. And it was really unable, or I was unable to utilize the tools to the full capacity. So I'm going to pass it on to Susan now, who's going to share a little bit more of the story of oxidative stress and how it impacts our cells and how we can restore our bodies, our toolboxes, so that we can survive and thrive and use those tools as needed. So Susan, on to you.
All right, thank you, Lonnie. I am going to share my screen here. Okay. So before we journey on, I just wanted to share a bit more about how I became connected to these two caregivers. In October of 2019, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. He'd never smoked, always lived a happy and healthy life. So it was a big shock to our family. And Lonnie was she was my lifesaver. I'd known her for 12 years, and she was one of the first people I reached out to for comfort and wisdom. And then as I ventured down this scary path, I started learning a lot of new things, including what I'm about to share with you now, and also met some extraordinary caregivers like Alana, who continues to inspire me with her perseverance and grace and cheerful outlook. So thank you, ladies. And in addition to the caregiver tips they've both shared, I just wanted to take a moment and share something with you that has truly shifted the way we all take care of our own health, as well as those we love. So I'm going to start back with Lonnie's toolbox and the rusted toolbox. And, you know, we probably aren't telling you anything you don't already know in terms of tools. You may just need a little reminding that you need to embrace these tools from people who have been there and done that, been through what you've been through. But what's a challenge is when your toolbox is so rusty, you can't even quite access those tools, right? And the truth of the matter is probably if your toolbox is rusty, the tools are too. And so you can liken oxidative stress to the rust that happens on the toolbox, or rust on your engine that slows you down, or rust in your body. And what causes oxidative stress? Well, there you see it. Mental and emotional stress, which caregivers just have a lot of, obviously. Poor nutrition, lack of sleep, exercise, either too little or too much. Believe it or not, having worked in the warrior community, the veteran community, sometimes it's not a matter of too little exercise. Sometimes the stress is so much and people will move to extreme exercise, scaling mountains, or all of a sudden doing triathlons, and they've never done triathlons in their life, to combat that stress. And so believe it or not, that can also have an impact by creating oxidative stress within the cells. And of course, environmental toxins, our medications, lots of things seen and unseen cause oxidative stress in the body. Now, why is this important? Why should you care? Well, oxidative stress is related to over 250 illnesses and diseases. It affects every cell in your body. It affects every system in your body: neurological, cardiovascular, your respiratory system, gastrointestinal health, your joints, your skin, everything. It's literally like rusting your body. Another way you might think of it is, you know, you have a fresh apple on your counter, and if you just left that apple out, it would naturally oxidize and it would start decaying over time. And truthfully, our body does this. Our cells, as we age, our cells are experiencing this oxidative stress at a higher rate as we age. And so, you know, obviously as caregivers, we're not just dealing with the emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual stress of being a caregiver, but we're also dealing with our own aging process. And so if you look at the cellular level, you can see, you know, in good health, when we're young and youthful and not deeply impacted by the stressors in our life, our cells are these nice round cells. And as they are attacked by free radicals, the cells start to, you know, lose that nice round shape and their health and their vitality. So on a more technical level, oxidative stress is essentially the imbalance between the production of free radicals in your body, which is a natural process, and the body's ability to counteract or neutralize or detoxify based on these harmful effects of free radicals. And so this is where antioxidants come into play. So I'm sure we're all familiar with antioxidants. We're eating them, you know, we're eating our blueberries, our kale, you know, our dark chocolate, our red wine. All of these are very important that we're intaking through our diet and nutrition, antioxidants. However, it's important to be aware that the food we consume are only getting at those free radicals at a 1-to-1 ratio. And you could liken it to trying to throw a Dixie cup of water when there's a raging fire. You're not going to put that fire out. And especially as a caregiver, you have to do something more. And so that something more is a product we're going to share that activates the cells on the cellular level. And so it's the difference between activation and supplementation. And it's like calling in the fire department when your house is on fire, because this product neutralizes free radicals at a ratio of 1 to 1 million. And it does this by activating cell signaling pathways in your body via nutrients, natural compounds. And we actually call this nutrigenomics. And no, this is not a word that we made up. This is real science. This stems from the understanding of the science of epigenetics. And important to note, because this is a real paradigm shift for many, many people, is that 97% of our genes are influenced by the choices we make, what we're experiencing in life, whether it's our stress, our diet, our nutrition, our lack of sleep, whatever we're ingesting and whatever we're exposed to. And on the flip side of that, our good choices. We can be dealt kind of a not so great hand of cards, so to speak, you know, where maybe we have a history of certain type of disease in our family, but we can counteract that by the choices that we make. So what are we really talking about here? Well, I've kind of, through my father's journey and my own health journey and the journey of many, many others that I've heard, I start to call this hope in a bottle, but we call it, it is called Protandim Nrf2 Trisynergizer, and it has been clinically proven to reduce oxidative stress by an average of 40% in 30 days. It also raises your primary antioxidants, which is SOD, catalase, and glutathione. If you're not familiar with those words or any of this, take a screenshot of this. Look up glutathione. If you're the person you're caring for is dealing with cancer, you know, autism, even the coronavirus, you need to understand what glutathione is. This product raises your glutathione by 300%. And that's not supplementing the body. That is activating the cell signaling pathways in your body so that you're making your own glutathione and catalase and SOD. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. There is tons of research on this. There are 26 peer-reviewed studies in PubMed. You can go to pubmed.gov. Your tax dollars pay for it. This is the repository for all medical research in the US, hosted by the National Institute of Health. And there's tons of studies on Protandim. I pulled one of my, this has really become part of my hope, is this simple phrase from a study taken from Washington State University where they talk about NRF2 cellular activation. They say NRF2 activation may become the most extraordinary therapeutic and preventative breakthrough in the history of medicine. That is powerful, powerful to me. So the next question we usually get is, what is in it? As a daughter of a real medicine woman, I wanted to know, she wanted to know, as the caregiver for my father, what's in it. And you're probably very familiar. There are 5 ingredients: turmeric, milk thistle, green tea extract, bacopa, and ashwagandha. Those are the 5 ingredients. Been used for thousands of years in Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine. So, and this is, again, a paradigm shift for many people if you are familiar with natural medicine. What is different about it is the synergy, is how it's formulated. And I put this picture up here. This is my mother, my sweet mother. We climbed a mountain together about a month ago in Montana. But when I was sharing this product with her, she was like, okay, I get the clinical research, I see that, but I take all these. And she does. She literally had, she's a tincture lady. So she had all the tinctures there, and she was taking all of them, I think, except for bacopa. And she was like, what's the difference? And the difference is how it is combined so that it synergistically flips on the switch in your cells. It's like, again, activating the cellular pathways. And I liken it to a key that unlocks your front door. You can have 2 keys that look really, really similar, but there's a slight differentiation in the way one is notched out or the teeth in one. And only that key will unlock your door. So for a short while, I think she was thinking about, how can I mix all these tinctures so I have the right formula? But I'm telling you, especially as a caregiver, you don't have time to be doing that. Just trust the science, trust the studies, and we really encourage you to look it up, research it for yourself, and try this, because it's made a huge difference and in our lives and many, many others. So again, we promised this would be short and sweet. We are going to follow up with some wonderful resources, however. Get back to the person who shared this link with you, because we have available for you a great document that's going to have the 10 tips that they shared. You also will receive an ebook called Diagnose Now What by Alana Lynn, and you can certainly get information on how to order Protandim. Now, I'd like to conclude with just sharing this slide with you. If you would like to reach out to Alana or Lonnie, they have graciously provided their contact information. You can also follow them on social media. They have lots of inspiring content that you can follow, because I think above all else, one of the things that is most important when you're going through the caregiver journey is to connect with people who've been there before and who understand what it feels like. And having, as someone who is kind of new in this whole cancer journey, I can tell you that there's nothing quite like it until you've been through it yourself. And so I'm grateful to these amazing women and to all the caregivers on our call. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to them or to the person that shared this information, this call information with you, because they love you, they care about you, and we're here to help and support you. So thank you so much for your time today. I am going to go ahead and stop sharing, and I'll also stop recording. And if anyone, I know we wanted to stay right to time, and we did, so if you need to dash off, please do so. But if you have questions, more than happy to answer your questions, and I know Lonnie and Alana are as well.